Fears about the onset of climate change are mounting as major international bodies warn governments to act before it's too late. The World Bank recently warned the planet that if governments do not change their response to environmental sustainability, global temperatures run the risk of warming up to 4 degrees this century, possibly as early as 2060. The World Bank has stressed the crucial devastation that would result unless greenhouse gas emissions are reduced, which includes suffering crop yields, rising sea levels, and the destruction of ecosystems. Scientists have said that in order to avoid such environmental destruction, global temperatures need to remain within 2 degrees of pre-industrial temperatures. The report, titled "Turn Down the Heat," says current global warming is at 0.8 degrees above pre-industrial levels. The report also warned that if the world experienced 4 degrees of warming, it would see a 150% increase in the ocean's acidity, leading to the extinction of some sensitive coral reef ecosystems, result in a sea level rise of 0.5 to 1 metre by 2100, affecting low-lying island and coastal communities, and it would also lead to more extreme heat waves, reduced runoff into major rivers, and a significant decline in biodiversity, all risking the support systems of humans. The report also warns the dire risk of the human race, particularly those less fortunate. Currently, the world population is an equally pressing issue for global governments, as numbers increase without the guarantee of a sustainable supply of nutrient-rich foods. According to the World Bank, the global population at 2011 was just below 7 billion. From 1960, the world population has more than doubled, and scientists fear that current food supply and production methods will not meet these growing demands. Professor Mark Wahlqvist from Monash University's Asia Pacific Health and Nutrition Centre at the Monash Asia Institute said that current food manufacturing systems will struggle to service a population of over 7 billion. He said governments must make a major effort to develop food systems which are minimally dependent on non-renewable energy sources and maximally dependent on solar, geothermal and tidal energy. This issue is compounded by growing risks to the ecosystem of animals and plant life across the globe. Sustainable ecosystems are shrinking and disappearing, and we are foolish if we think we are a species that are viable without them, he said. These warnings come as nations are due to meet in Doha next week for a major international climate change summit. Ryan Hyde, a youth delegate from Global Voices, is heading along to the summit next week. He said global warming is a real risk to the planet, with some ecosystems already feeling the impact.
Global warming is very real. The island states are the ones that are going to be affected first with the rise in the water. One island has already been displaced, so they've evacuated an island in Papua New Guinea. It's called the Carteret Islands, and that island's going to be completely underwater by 2015. But yeah, it will also, in poorer countries, it's going to really affect food security. It's got all to do with the crops, and all the crops will die because all the pH levels and everything will change.
Another natural wonder already under pressure from the onset of climate change is the Great Barrier Reef.
So the destruction's already started to happen, and that if it's left unmitigated, so if it's not addressed globally, they could be terminally degraded before 2050. So this is like our Great Barrier Reef, which is one of our biggest tourist industries anyway. And they say this can be avoided through a realistic combination of local and global management actions. Recently,
Australia signed the second commitment of the Kyoto Protocol, which will require Australia to reduce their carbon emissions from 5 to 25% by 2020. Climate Change Minister Greg Combet said that from 2020, governments expect all countries, including the US, Europe, China, Japan, India and Indonesia, to join with Australia in the new agreement to reduce emissions.
America and China and all the big emitters said they're going to sign up.
Okay.
Because before then, that's one of the biggest negative parts of the Kyoto Protocol is that the biggest emitters didn't sign. And they didn't sign because America didn't sign anyway because they thought that all countries of the world should have the same responsibilities. At the moment, it's only there's two sections, and that's developed and non-developed. So non-developed countries don't have emission, like they're not legally binded by emission targets.
The current revision of the Kyoto Protocol is losing favour with some major countries across the globe.
And a lot of countries have already pulled out, like New Zealand just pulled out. I think Russia and Japan have also pulled out. So it's pretty much like the biggest countries are only Australia and the countries that in the EU. So it's a much weaker than the first Kyoto Protocol because this is the second commitment period.
Mr Hyde believes all countries need to put aside their politics and band together if they want to make a real effort to reduce climate change.
Every country is thinking too much about their national interest and not the global interest. The world needs to sort of focus really on what it can do together to remove climate change.
The UN Climate Change Conference will be held in Qatar next week, beginning on the 26th of November. It hopes to unite nations on developing sustainable ways to reduce carbon emissions across the globe.